Recording in progress. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our city council meeting this evening. First, I want to thank Council President Jeff Watman and the council body for encouraging and enabling and empowering me to run this meeting today in honor of Women's History Month. Okay, so we are going to first have a call to order. Linda, please. Invocation first? Oh, well, excuse me. So I guess we'll have, so we're doing invocation. I'm sorry? Oh, after I see it. Gotcha. Okay, thank you for bearing with me as I run this meeting for the first time. Great experience. Okay, so we're gonna have an invocation today by Andrea McHenry, Director of Free. Hi, Andrea, how are you this evening?
Hello, thank you for having me here to pray. Okay, let's pray. Father God, we come before you tonight and thank you that you are good. We thank you that you are the God of the city. I ask your hand of protection be on every city council member and their families, that they would feel you close, Lord. I ask you give them wisdom from heaven and divine strategies. Give them discernment and revelation in this meeting and every meeting coming in the future. Bless every leader in the city, God. Guide and direct each step they take. We lift up the city of Reading to you, God, that you would have your way, that Reading would rise up in the abundance that you, Jesus, came to bring. We thank you, Holy Spirit, for the life you are bringing forth in Reading now and in the future. Lord God, we ask your will be done in Reading. We thank you for the greater things still to be done here. May your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Everyone, please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank
I never
you.
pledged to two flags.
Okay. Linda, may we please have a roll call?
Mr. Butler,
Here.
Mr. Peter Freitas,
Here.
Ms. Goodman Hendershitz,
Here.
Ms. Reed,
Here.
Ms. Ventura,
Here.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Here.
6 present, none absent.
Thank you. And just to recap, we did have executive session after the March 21st COW relating to potential litigation. Now we're going to proceed with the best part of our evening meeting, proclamations and presentations.
You should add, there was an executive session prior to tonight's meeting too.
There was also an executive session prior to this evening's meeting, so we can have that noted. Thank you, Mr. Gumbar. Now the good stuff, right? Yes, thank you. Now we're going to move on to proclamations and presentations, and we're going to have Councilwoman Marsha Goodman Hendershitz present this evening. Jamila Kabe.
Okay, and it is my great honor to be able to forward this commendation. Whereas Jemiah Kobe, now 15 years of age and in 9th grade when the COVID pandemic started, and whereas many students in the city of Reading and all across the United States of America expressed a shutdown that required them to begin learning from their homes, and whereas as she began her document, she experienced it as a student during the pandemic. She and other students researching prior pandemics could not locate any written documentation and effects of the event in proportion may have had on the communities, much less on a student's education. And whereas she, through her detailing of her experience in the unparalleled times, published a book entitled The COVID-19 Pandemic, Mood Education from the Classroom to Homes. And whereas Mrs. Colby's book is an interactive narrative of how she used her coping skills and encouraged others to share their own or experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, therefore, the Council of the City of Reading commends as follows. The City of Reading City Council urges all citizens to commend the drive and commitment of Jamila, where such a young age demonstrates her insightfulness by bringing into existence through her book an account of the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic experience through the mind of a student during her studies. And we are honored to present this to you. Please make some comments.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of Reading City Council, Councilwoman Johanny Cepeda Freitas and Councilwoman Marcia Goodman Hendershitz. I am truly honored that you are commending me for self-publishing my book. The COVID-19 pandemic was very difficult for young people like me. It was an unprecedented time and there was no information on what to expect. I decided to document my experiences in this project with hopes of sharing it with the world. I was 15 years old when those extremely difficult times started and young people like me were forced to become incredibly resilient and creative. The book was published when I was 16 and I recently turned 17. Thank you for supporting the youth of the city. A special thanks to my family, especially my parents, Mr. and Dr. Kabe, for encouraging me to be the best person I can be. To all my bonus moms and dads, you know who you are, thank you. I ask for your continued support. Please purchase my book, gift it to a student, and they can be inspired to write their own COVID story. The title of my book is The COVID-19 Pandemic Moved Education from Classrooms to Homes. It is approximately 30 pages long and an unautographed copy sells for $8.99. Again, thank you very much for inviting me here tonight.
I have a question or a comment, and this is directed to council. I think one of the ways we learn from people's writing is to have discussion groups, study groups on books. So if there's any opportunities you can think of where we can bring together students, community members to really discuss what this means, because we can't but learn from the lessons of what happened during COVID. And I think what happens is sometimes people move on without learning from experiences. So if you'd like to be able to think of some opportunities to do that together with your family, we certainly would like to be able to support you in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Jamila. Thank you for being such a positive role model. Thank you for inspiring so many of us with the work that you did and how you used your time wisely and you became so creative and you're quite the entrepreneur. And to my colleagues, council body, and to everyone who's tuning in, let's support our young entrepreneur and let's make sure we purchase her books. Can you tell us where we can purchase your book? From Dr. Betts. Wes has his hand up. Councilman Butler, would you like to say something?
You had said the question I was about to ask. I was gonna say congratulations, and where can we purchase your book? Because I certainly want to purchase one, and I have your mother's contact, so that shouldn't be a problem. But congratulations, that's definitely a great accomplishment, and continue to be a role model in our community.
Anyone else from council body would like to make a comment? No? Okay. Yes, Donna.
Just congratulations as a writer. I know the dedication and endeavor it is. And if you've done a book at your age, I expect to read many, many more books by you in the years to come. So great role model, great discipline to get the book done, and we wish you all the best.
And congratulations, Dr. Betts, and to your dad, and great parents, another inspiration, product of your investment, so, and your care and your nurturing. So thank you for the work that you do in raising your children and leading the way for others and for other young people to follow. So thank you. Okay, so we're gonna proceed now with our meeting, and at this point, do we have anyone scheduled for public comment? Thank you, Linda. Okay, so the first one up is Reverend Morrison. Oh, I'm so sorry. Before you proceed, Dr. Morrison, Councilwoman Reed, could you please read the policy? Yes.
This is public comment instructions, and to comment at a regular business meeting, citizens can register by calling or emailing the city clerk's office by noon the day of the regular meeting. Instructions are available to access the virtual meeting app or dial-in will be provided upon registration. And the number to call is 610-655-6205 or email council@readingpa.gov. Public comment can also be accepted in writing by 4 p.m. the day of the meeting to an email to the council. And those wishing to provide in-person comment at a regular meeting in city council chambers should register by 7 o'clock on the sheet provided at the council podium, and also via the council clerk no later than 4 o'clock that day. The procedure to register to comment by signing a registration sheet. I'm sorry, I'm redundant here. I have to revamp my instructions here. So everyone who wanted to sign up tonight before 7 o'clock has done so. Public speaking rules adopted by council allow those speaking on agenda matters to speak for 5 minutes and 3 minutes for non-agenda matters. Comments posted in Zoom chat and or on Facebook are not considered public comment, and a response may not likely occur. All remarks must be directed to council's body and not to any individual council member or to any public elected or appointed official in attendance. Any comment that is personally offensive or impertinent will not be read into the record. Comments on agenda matters, again, are limited to 5 minutes in length, and non-agenda matters to 3 minutes in length.
Thank you, Councilwoman Reed. And now we will proceed with our speakers. And the first one is Reverend Morrison, and the topic is book bindery. So you have 5 minutes. Oh, please put on your mic. Turn on your mic. Yep, press that button. So that everyone.
How's that?
Perfect,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to honor that young lady, Jamila. Just keep up the good work. You represent the young people who we need to nurture and support as they go through their unusual experiences. And that's basically a rites of passage. I also want at this point to talk about, to make a notice for April, which is Poetry Month, and the Reading Writes, R-I-T-E-S, Reading Writes is a newly organized and formed writers guild, and they're presenting their original poetry at the Reading Public Library at on Saturday, the 23rd of April, and that will be at 1 o'clock, and there'll be some great refreshments shared by one of the local vendors. Sorry, Johanny, it's not you, but another young lady. To get down to the business, as we had a discussion at our first meeting of the month, we were talking about the book bindery and how on the table, on the agenda, there is a discussion about the $200,000 loan that is scheduled to be voted on. And I just wanted to say to you that we remember the young lady that did come, and there are more people coming as a result of the mold in the building. I got good response from the city departments regarding their need to go and inspect and really look at basically the quality of health and life there, but they couldn't really do anything because there's no mold ordinance. So I'm hoping that you will see the wisdom of this and put it together, and as soon as possible, vote on in the affirmative of a mold ordinance. Now, when it comes to the bookbindery, we talked about why people are not paying back their loans. And for the most part, community development, when Alex was here, did say that they had ran into hardships and, their businesses weren't as successful. But when it comes to the bookbindery, we're talking about J&A Court. J&A Court just recently had a hearing with the zoning to take a manufactured slash commercial property that they bought to be able to refurbish it to make it a residential unit. That's not somebody who's experiencing a hardship to be able to buy a manufacturing building and then have plans to turn it into a residential property. They were denied by zoning, and zoning said that the variance interpretation or special exceptions were not met. So I'm sure they're going to proceed with maybe another application. But the point is that this particular individual is not experiencing hardships. When you're looking at 41 properties at the Bookbinder Apartments, paying rents anywhere from the rental assistance with Section 8, as well as the market rents for those apartments. So I'm saying that we need to look at our own code of ethics and begin to look at the origin of the ownership of this property. Like Keith Mooney said, everything that was done was legal, but was it ethical, and did it satisfy the conflict of interest piece in the code of ethics? And no public official, office, or anyone in public trust, the public servants should treat their offices as a public trust, only using the powers and resources of public office to advance public interest, not personal gain, and not to attain personal benefits or pursue any other private interest incompatible with the public good. That is a standard that we have. It's a principle that we have in our ethics. And that means that I'm finished. Okay, so public ethics, it's already written. We need to deny this application. He needs to pay the money back so other small businesses can use those funds as a rotating loan that it was designed to be. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Nice to see you, Melissa. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Morrison. The next one up is, we have Barry Sartell, and the topic is J&A Court. Sir, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Barry Sawtell, and I'm also here to talk about the bookbindery in J&A Court. I'm an attorney at Kozloff Stout, and we represent J&A Court and Mr. Radwanski. I came here tonight with two understandings. One was that there was going to be a discussion and vote on an ordinance to approve a settlement agreement that was negotiated with the city solicitor at the end of last year. I understand from Mr. Gombar that that's now off the agenda, so it's not going to be considered tonight. And the other understanding was that there were some concerns or some lack of understanding of the agreement, and it was my hope to come and engage in some kind of discussion and hopefully specify what those concerns are, and to see if there's some way we can work out an arrangement that's acceptable to everyone. So I don't know where the council is going to go with the ordinance to approve the settlement agreement, but I would hope that that would not just fall into the abyss. The issue for the council is that the mortgages that are the subject of the settlement agreement date back to 1990. As far as anybody can tell, there haven't been payments made on those mortgages for more than 25 years. And in Pennsylvania, a mortgage is subject to a 20-year statute of limitations. If there is a default on the mortgage and more than 20 years elapses, then the mortgage is no longer enforceable and becomes a nullity. These mortgages are more than 20 years old, and it appears to have been more than 20 years since there was a default. Nevertheless, the offer was made to the city to pay $250,000 toward the $440,000 balance on these loans. And that offer was, it was our understanding that was going to be considered tonight. So I would just say that I think that this is an offer that's advantageous to the city. It was made in the hope that we could resolve this promptly and without a lot of unnecessary expense. But it's also something where the city needs to decide if it wants something or not. So if there is something worth discussing in terms of what's in the agreement, I would urge you to convey that to Mr. Gombar, and he can contact me, and perhaps we can discuss this further and see if we can't make this work. I can't turn back the clock. I can't change whatever happened in terms of how this property was conveyed, but my client is in a position to offer a substantial amount of money to the city that we don't believe they could be required to pay under the circumstances. So again, I guess I would just say, thank you for listening. And if there is anything further to discuss, please get that to Mr. Gombar promptly, because my client needs to move this forward one way or the other. And so we've got a short time frame. So thank you.
Thank you. And we usually don't respond to speakers unless absolutely necessary. Council body, any comments at this point, or we'll save it till the end? Okay, so we'll proceed. Any other, do we have any Zoom speakers, Linda?
No, we don't.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we are going to proceed with the consent agenda legislation, but we need to withdraw 2 items from the agenda. The first one being Bill number 17-2022, which is the approving settlement agreement pertaining to the outstanding loans related to the bookbinding building at 148 North 4th Street. And we're also withdrawing Bill 28-2022, amending City of Reading Code, Section 576-403, parking prohibited in certain areas by requiring parking stalls on city streets and requiring that vehicles be parked between the stall lines. Do we accept the consent agenda with the withdrawal of those 2 items? Yes? I don't need to do a roll call for that, right? I can proceed or? Oh, absolutely. Okay, so A, award of contract to Simone and Collins, Inc., Norristown, PA, to develop an active transportation plan at the cost of $49,998 for public works. The plan will focus on downtown Reading and several other corridors and will provide suggestions for creating a more integrated and equitable road network that balances local livability with regional connectivity. And are we going to accept all of these items at the same time? Should I read through them or one by one? Right through them. Okay, resolution. B is resolution authorizing the solicitor to execute and submit the approval of the repository bids for 416 Gilson Alley, 1409 Cotton Street, 1027 Perry Street, 752 Schuylkill Avenue, and 521 Maple Street. C, resolution authorizing the mayor sign the necessary paperwork to effectuate the receipt of payments from PennDOT for the conveyances of temporary construction, slope and drainage easement authorized by bill number 101-2021 related to the Schuylkill Avenue Railroad Bridge project. D, award of contract to the Warco Group of Reading, PA at the submitted price of $668,200 to upgrade the mechanicals at the Reading Public Library. E, award of contract to AJ Jurek Aston, PA at the submitted price of $482,250 for the removal and replacement of an existing section of stormwater outfall pipe to be completed in accordance with the approved erosion and sediment pollution control plan, associated permit restrictions, and approved aids to navigation plan for the Schuylkill River. Finally, E, award of contract to Telco Inc. at the submitted price of $258,447 for a traffic signal improvement project for 5 intersections that require various traffic signal items to be either installed, replaced, and/or upgraded. And the locations have been identified as 4th and Penn, 4th and Court, 3rd and Buttonwood, and Windsor, and 5th and Burn. Did I get those correct?
Center Avenue in Windsor
Oh,
Right.
Center, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry,
that's right.
Center Avenue
and
in
Windsor
Windsor.
Street, yes.
Thank you. Do we approve and accept the consent agenda legislation? Yes, we're good. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the administrative report, and we have Mr. Dombowski on behalf of the mayor.
Yes. Thank you, Council Vice President. Good evening, members of council and the viewing public. This evening, I will provide a brief summary of the mayor's activity and the administrative report. The mayor's activity report is dated from March 11th to March 27th. On March 14th, the mayor attended a business owners discussion at the Doubletree Hotel organized by Representative Guzman. And the topic was, safety at small businesses. On March 16th, the mayor attended the 275th city anniversary kickoff event at the Santander Performance Arts Center. On March 17th, the mayor conducted interviews for candidates for the position of the fire chief. Our current fire chief will be retiring on April 1st. Tomorrow, the mayor will make public his decision on who the new fire chief would, who his nomination really is for the next fire chief, because it's still pending council's approval. On March 17th, the mayor conducted a roundtable forum with different organizations to discuss violence in the community. The mayor is having a follow-up meeting on March 30th. I have details that I will email the council tomorrow about the follow-up meeting on March 30th. On March 22nd, the mayor with different organization representatives visited Reading High School to give the students information handouts as a program for community prevention of violence. And it was informed that at least 7 students reached out to a few of the agencies to ask for services. So the mayor's handing out different information to the youth on different programs they can participate after school. And on March 22nd, the mayor raised the Ukrainian flag in solidarity and alliance with the Ukrainian community. Now I'll head over to the summary of the administrative report. The Community Development Department staff prepared the consolidated annual performance and evaluation report known as CAPER for the period of January 1st through December 31st of 2021. The CAPER report is designed to provide information on how the city uses its federal, state, and local funds for housing and community development program year. The Community Development Department will submit a request to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development by the end of March for the release of over $3.7 million in federal lead-based paint hazard reduction grant funds, the release of $400,000 in Healthy Homes supplemental grant funds, and $450,000 in match funds. As previously reported, the city received this grant award last year in 2021. Now we're at the process to implement the program. Just as a reminder, the lead-based paint hazard control grant program will address lead and other hazards in housing units throughout the city of Reading. This grant will help in remediating lead and other hazards in homes owned or occupied by low-income families with children under 6 years of age. The city proposes a remediation of 150, which is an estimation, of housing units within the city. And just as information, the average cost per unit will be approximately $15,000. In the administrative report, there's a bunch of charts. And what we're going to do is in future committee of the whole meetings, I'll have department directors go over more detail of the meaning of the chart. So I won't go through too much of the charts today, but it's there for your review. And then there'll be an opportunity for department directors to get into more detail. But just a quick capture here, quality of life ticketing are still our #1 violation is accumulation of garbage. When we take a look at our planning zoning activities, actually this report is broken down weekly. There's applications on hold, waiting for applicant to respond, 94. Applications pending review, 117, and that's over a 2-week period. So there's a whole chart built out there. There's another section that's been added to the administrative report. We added the downtown as a separate category because now that we have a full-time downtown coordinator, there's been a lot of activity that's going on downtown. So just a couple quick highlights. The downtown coordinator worked with Public Works to plant yellow and blue flowers along Penn Street and support Ukraine. The downtown coordinator has been working with police traffic, the Berks Arts Council, the Reading Chamber Alliance, and been meeting with Alvernia's fellowship program to support the city's Block Stewart program, which we will have more information. It's finishing its final planning stages, so as soon as it's planned, we will provide more information. And this week, well, actually on March 14th, the housing bills went out. So there's been that's the rental housing bills that go out annually. There's been there's a lot of labor intensive activity on the staff, but and we get a lot of increased phone calls related to housing. And just looking at this customer service center, our largest request once again in this month has been sewer backup, which is 23% of our calls. And as you look at the report, there's like 40 different categories of different things that people call about. So it's very interesting. And I'm finishing up my report here, just a few more items. The library, the Reading Public Library would thank the city and the county DA's office for funding 52 cameras at all 4 library branch locations. At this time, 51 of the 52 cameras have been installed, and the last one's expected to be installed shortly. The Reading Police Department held its physical training test, PT test on March 12th. Out of 36 participants, 29 passed, and now they'll move into the interview phase of the hiring process. Chief Trinelli joined Mayor Moran in 2 meetings related to crime, and as previously reported in the mayor's activity, these meetings were to discuss with business owners concerns related to crime. That was hosted by State Representative Guzman. And then the second meeting hosted by the mayor on a roundtable related to the prevention of youth violence. And in our Public Works section, Public Works has recently delivered 150 recycle bins that residents have requested. So that's always a good sign that there's a continued interest in our residents to participate in the recycling program. And just a reminder, on April 23rd will be the Great American Cleanup, and there'll be more details on how all of us in the community can participate. So that's a summary of my 2 reports. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dembowski.
Frank, it seems that 118 total quality of life violations seems very small for what we all see around the city. I'm confused about that. I mean, I'd like to think it was a sign of good things, but I mean, we're realists. We know city isn't looking good. A lot of trash, a lot of abandoned cars, all sorts of things that we see in all our districts. I'm stunned to see only 9 in my district. Can you explain that?
Sure. What we're going to do is, like I said, this data helps the administration and council and the viewing public to get a snapshot of what's taking place. I do know historically, when it comes to quality of life issues, there is an uptick, which we'll see soon based on the weather. When it gets warmer out, there tends to be more complaints on conditions of people's yards, accumulation of trash. What I'm doing is I'm also going to require some additional reporting on, some of it's going to be internal reports on how many violations from each inspector. And I'm going to be breaking down some more reports to help give me a better understanding of how these things are taking place. So it's a work in progress. I can't speak exactly why the 119, good, bad, I don't know that. But I am working closely with the staff to better understand the operation and to see if we're maximizing our staff to address some of these issues. So I will be continuously reporting on more information as I narrow down these things. It's a good question, and I will have to get a thorough answer. I don't want to just give you an answer that I don't have.
It just strikes me when I see this, and again, we're all cognizant. We all are driving around, walking around. We see what's going on. Must it always be based on a complaint, or are folks not seeing visible things that we're all seeing?
Well,
I mean, truly, what's going on? Because the more we let things lapse, the less pride there is in a city, the more acceptance there is that you can open a car door and throw a bunch of fast food wrappers out. I mean, truly, it's the broken window theory on steroids right now with the city.
the inspectors are also doing inspections also. So there's a combination. I have to take a.
But there's nothing happening. There's nothing, I mean, 118 quality of life violations issued for a full month.
But
And I'm
we've,
not being mean to you,
No,
but
I
I mean,
understand.
it's stunning. It's stunning when you look at the condition of our city.
and we've also had almost 400 inspections, 200 didn't pass and 200 have passed. That's part of the workload, which I didn't go over in
And how do we know
detail.
that's going, I mean, how are they benchmarked and quantified that we know what's happening? Are there resolutions, or are things just let go? How do you follow each process?
Well, one of the things, and I don't want the auditor is here, but I know the auditor is doing some auditing. I don't know necessarily on citations, but she's in the process of beginning an audit of the PMI department to take a look at some processes, not all the processes. So the part that she works on, I'm working with her parallel to understand the staffing, how they're best being utilized. I'm also looking at more reports on court hearings or success of court hearings, or if we're finding people guilty or they're being dismissed or there are no-shows. So certainly this data is going to help drive some of the answers that you're looking for. So it's a continuously work in progress, but what we're going to do also is when there's a committee of the whole, and when that particular department is scheduled to speak, I'm going to have them break down these statistics even further. So what you see in the administrative report is just a beginning of a snapshot, but you will have a more detailed response on what these statistics mean, how the staff is being deployed, and how we're responding to them. So I just don't want to just throw numbers out there and say, hey, look at these numbers. I'm going deep dive into these numbers. And as this process evolves in the community of the whole, the directors of each program will explain what those numbers mean and what we do with those numbers. So, but I definitely we will address all these kind of questions and concerns because we haven't had data for a while. So we're starting off on that step, and then we're going to take a deep dive and understand what does this data mean and what does, and how do we work forward with that? So definitely in the very near future, there'll be much more to follow. And the particular staff members of those programs will be made readily available to be part of the conversation.
Anyone else? Marcia, go ahead.
And this is where, I completely agree with Counselor Reed. I find it very hard, and I take walks in my district, the number, and it's really health issues. When I see the amount of people that are just dumping and putting large quantity either in the wooded areas near where I live, in the little basement entrances. And then I do this as I'm driving into work. I drive down 9th Street, which I know isn't being addressed through what we're doing with downtown. Just a block away from City Hall, it's lined in front of Burke's Encore with trash every day of the week. Even, after the street sweepers go by, I think something is wrong with the formula here. So we need to be figuring out how to be strategic and to be able to say, this is not acceptable. I used to be able to think, well, after a rough winter, you were going to see a lot of trash. Well, we haven't had that kind of winter where we've had a lot of snow accumulation that would have prohibited the trash from being cleaned up. So something is just not working. And we all want a clean, safe city. We want to be able to look at the broken window theory, which I know you became familiar with, Frank, when you worked with Mayor McMahon. So it's not an old concept, or new concept, I should say. It's something we all know about. And just for a small item, and I feel like I'm a broken record here, please have the city repair the boarded up window next to Alvernia College. I go by there every other day, and I'm embarrassed to be representing the city and not be able to speak to the kind folks from Alvernia about why a property that we own, we can't repair a boarded window. It's just not acceptable. And that's sort of symptomatic of a lot of things we're seeing. I know it's a lot of hard lift, but repairing one broken window is not. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Anyone else? Yes.
And just in response, council approved the 2022 budget, 2 additional sweep officers, which is the solid waste education enforcement officers. So we're in the process of looking to hire 2 full-time individuals who will focus on some of the quality of life issues that we're speaking about. Right now, our staff is, focusing on complaint-based. We're kind of complaint-driven at the moment, just because of the magnitude of what comes in. But we certainly, with the sweep officers, it's taking the philosophy that council is directing and suggesting to us, a more proactive approach. So we're not just waiting for complaints. We're going after things proactively. We're just in the process of, we just got it approved. We had some labor negotiations on these positions, and we hope to fill this position shortly because the need is certainly there. So I hope to be able to report back to council very soon. The position is being filled as soon as possible and the progress that they'll be making.
Thank you. Anyone else before I ask my questions? I only have 2 follow-ups to your report. And the first one is regarding the safety meeting held with small business owners. What was the outcome and what was the takeaway? And do we have something that we'll be implementing in the future?
The mayor and Chief Tornelli attended on behalf of the administration. I was not at that meeting. I did get, the mayor did share some things with us at a daily briefing. It was certainly, and I don't know if the chief is still on our call here. He can weigh in because he was there with the mayor. The district attorney was there, and I believe the sheriff was there, and some other law enforcement individuals. So we were talking about how the city and law enforcement communicate, have a line of communication with small business owners because they feel prone to discern, robberies and things that you may not have in larger businesses. But I wasn't at that meeting, so I only know the basics. It was hosted by State Representative Guzman, and he was the facilitator of the meeting. I can find out for you, there may be meeting notes or something that I can obtain that I can share with council.
Thank you, Frank. And then the second follow-up is related to the funding received for the lead remediation. How will these properties be identified? And is it like a block at a time? What's the plan for that?
Well, it's not, it's going to be working with health officials through
Okay.
referrals, because in order to address lead remediation, we're looking at the target audience of children who are under 6, and they have to be already tested to be at elevated lead levels. So there's a partnership with different health providers to be able to help establish the target areas. And there'll be more. The program's just starting to take off. We're hiring 3 individuals that are being paid by the grant, a lead inspector, an intake person. So as soon as that program is momentarily up and running, more data more information will be available, but it's a very good question, but it's basically referrals as part of the target audience.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else before we proceed? Okay, so now we will have the report from our auditor, Maria.
Thank you, Councilwoman Johanny. The first item on my report tonight is the real estate property tax annual day as of December 31st, 2021. In 2021, within the general fund, the city budgeted $24,649,055 for property taxes. And as of December 31st, 2021, the city recorded about 26 million, which exceeded its budget target by about 1.6 million. In 2020, the city recorded about 24.3 million or 98% of total amount budgeted. And the property taxes revenue ended up with a shortfall of about $500,000. However, $178,945 less was budgeted for this revenue line item in 2021 compared to 2020. In 2020, the Emergency Solution Grant Program update. In 2020, the city was awarded about 2.2 million by HUD. And the deadline for the city to utilize this grant money is September 30, 2022. However, that deadline can be changed according to HUD. They could be extended. According to a recent notice that was received, this deadline could change if HUD finds that it is necessary to do so. As of December 31, 2021, the city had disbursed about $1 million to assist residents with rent and utility bills, and the city still can utilize $1.2 million to continue supporting residents with their rent and utility bill directly related to COVID-19. Miscellaneous update. On April 4, 2021, our external auditor, Irvine Company, will begin their field work for the city 2021 financial compliance audit. Update on this audit will be provided to City Council and the administration as it progress. When I was talking to the Community Development Director, he said that this morning, the money that was received from HUD that is specific for COVID related can also be dispersed to others organizations like homeless and other nonprofit organizations. So thank you. This is my report for tonight. And if you have any questions, I'm open. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? No? Thank you, Maria, for your report. We're gonna continue with the Animal Control Board report by Rich Rosado. And Rich is joining us via Zoom. The
Hello.
floor is yours.
Our mission is to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of the city of Reading and to ensure the humane treatment of animals by regulating the care and control of animals within the city. We were formed in October 1999, and we meet in mid-June, July, and mid-January, February, or as needed around 6 p.m. on the meeting days. We have currently 6 members, several from the Animal Rescue League. Our duties include approving or denying applications for keeping exotic animals, domestic agricultural animals, or native wildlife. We approve or deny applications on the keeping of 6 or more dogs and cats, and we discuss recent status of animal control calls executed by the Animal Rescue League. We also discuss recent animal cruelty situations under investigation by the Animal Rescue League. Since the board's last report to council, we learned more about aggressive dog problems in and near the Center Park area and discussed this with the Reading Police and the Pennsylvania Dog Warden. As a result of what I've mentioned, we amended the animal chapter of the Code of Ordinances to update and reorganize. We've discussed live poultry markets and voted not to support them in Reading. We followed the process to obtain the services of a hearing officer as needed. We amended the animal bite reporting process in the Code of Ordinances. We discussed problems caused by the sale of underage puppies and when people leave their animals behind when they move. We've had a number of permits that we have allowed in the city, such as we approved more than 6 cats for 221 Linden Street. We approved 2 ducks for 1424 Linden Street. We approved more than 6 cats or dogs for 1711 Cotton Street. More than 6 cats or dogs for 1520 Mulberry Street. We ordered the removal of a rooster from 619 Chestnut Street. We approved more than 6 cats and dogs at 1034 Court Street. We approved keeping the chickens at 2416 High Street and also at 2329 High Street. And we approved keeping the chickens at 732 Thorn Street, but ordered the removal of a rooster. We heard complaints about an unpermitted cat rescue at 611 Maple Street. That has been closed. About more than 6 cats or dogs at 936 North 5th Street. The animal owner refused to complete application processes and a citation was issued. We heard a complaint about chickens at 236 South 18th Street, and we're waiting on an application from that owner. Chickens and roosters at 1043 Chestnut Street, all of them have been removed. Illegal dog breeding at 528 South 14th Street, and that's being pursued by zoning. Updates on hearings. We have 3 dogs escaped from a home on the 1300 block of Church Street and killed a small dog. An aggressive dog killed a puppy on the 2000 block of Kutztown Road. And a pit bull killed a small dog on the 1300 block of Amity Street. City staff is currently working to amend zoning ordinance to cross-reference the need for both zoning permits and animal control permits to keep chickens. Questions?
Thank you for your report, Rich Rosado. Any questions? Yes, Marcia.
Okay, and thank you for the actions you took in certain areas. One of the things I've noted that's been more frequent is people are leaving their dogs unleashed and they're basically running into traffic. I've seen, obviously several deaths occurring from animals, and it also is very difficult for both children and other pets. Now, I would need to probably refer to our ordinances, whether that's legal in the city or not, but it is becoming very problematic. Our parks and our playgrounds aren't safe anymore because there's a lot of dogs just roaming around. It's not even that their owners are with them. They're just left out of the homes and they just take off.
Well, I think there's 2 issues. There is a leash law. They must be kept on leashes. Here in Center Park, where I live, I stop people frequently and remind them of leash laws. Mostly I see them when I'm walking my own dog and they come running up and it's just not safe. And also for their safety as well. The other issue being the dogs escaping from their homes or being let out without being attended. And there are also issues that is something we've called the Animal Rescue League and the police and the dog warden in order to help us with that issue. It is an issue. It is a problem. It's just catching them at the time when they're out, trying to deal with that, and also trying to contact the owners as well.
Thank you.
Council President?
Yeah, Rich, thank you for your service on the board and all the other members as well. Obviously, there's a lot that goes on to pet management and care in the city, and these are the details that a lot of people never get to hear. And not only is it important to protect the animals, but the public as well. I know tonight's one of the last few cold nights that we're going to see this year, but it's supposed to be pretty cold tonight. When people see pets outside on a night like tonight, what are the steps they should take to try to get that pet protected as soon as possible?
You can contact the Animal Rescue League for that. Their humane officers can come out and they can take a look at it. There's, I don't have it in front of me. I wish I did. Below a certain temperature, which tonight was certainly qualified for, they should be brought in. I think I believe it's a half hour. I don't have that in front of me, but I know there just as there's heat ordinance, heat temperature regulations is also for cold as well. So they should call the shelter and report them so that those animals can come in immediately.
Thank you.
There's code red and code blue.
Code blue, that's right, code blue.
Donna?
Yes, and to get to the question about the chickens, I know you cited several in District 5 as well as some in Marcia's district as well. But concerns in terms of, I understand the whole rooster thing with the noise and all that stuff. I grew up on a farm, I get it. But my concern now with chickens is there is a new avian flu that's starting to be seen. And the idea of having chickens in a concentrated urban area or in R1 districts, things like that, but more in the urbanized areas, you know, this is of concern in terms of contagion and disease spread. What is, if you could give it in a nutshell to those who are listening or watching, are current okay for chickens and how people go about it? Do they go through zoning as happened recently with York Street in Riverdale? Do they go through you guys? What's the deal?
They would come to us, and then we would and to fill out an application. They would apply for an application in order to keep their pets. That would be the first step, and then we would take it from there. And it's a process of checking out the property and what they have and how they're being cared for.
What are the maximum number someone can have? Is it based on the size of their property, a row home versus a suburban detached?
No, it's none.
Okay. I mean, I just think people need to know that because they're out there, you know?
Yeah, farm animals are prohibited in the city unless there's a permit issued by the animal control.
So why did recently ones go through the zoning hearing board in Riverdale area? No, it was on York Street in Riverdale. I'm curious why that occurred.
Okay.
Okay,
I-
maybe
Do we
that's
have a
something
follow-up to
we
that?
need to look at
Yeah.
through via law, because I was surprised when I was watching zoning that it was applied through via zoning versus animal control board. So I think there's some, not from your end, but some miscommunication or misunderstanding on the public's part as to what is allowed. And maybe that's something we need to just especially with spring coming. I hope that people still don't give chicks at Easter time, but you never know. We're up into chickens. So all the issues we have in the city, it's probably not the most major one, but I don't know about the rest of you, but I've already driven down my street and have a chicken walking straight ahead of me on Argonne. So we need to know about these things.
In the chat feature, Shelley tells us the Animal Control Board approves the chickens based on the care of the animals and the inspection based on the ARL's review. Zoning approves the building of coops, etc.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. So let's somehow, if we can, Frank, through communications to get a little bit out there about this as spring comes and people may be more tempted, especially with the whole concept of urban gardening. And I mean, there is a movement towards that, but we need to worry again avian flu, for those of us who lived through it and covered it in the early 1980s, was a major concern, and the contagion that surfaced then. So there is a new strain coming out. So let's just be careful with the densely populated city and how we deal with these things.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And thank you, Mr. Rosado, for your report. I believe we don't have any more questions, right? So we're going to move on with the remainder of the agenda. And now we have ordinances for final passage. We have Bill 18-2022, amending City Code Chapter 576, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 420, parking against the traffic flow by exempting vehicles parked in violation of this section due to winter weather conditions. This was introduced at the February 28th regular meeting, tabled at the March 14th regular meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
No,
Oh,
discussion.
oh, I'm sorry. Ah. Okay, so we have a motion. Anyone would like to make a comment? Yes, Marcia.
Okay, thank you. And I believe this is the most logical, common sense, safety action to be taken at this point. I do not agree with the perception that the only time this should be allowable is due to snow emergencies, because that's not really what's causing the problem. It's more like when there is any kind of untreated surface, ice, especially in higher elevations. So I fully support this ordinance.
Anyone else? Okay, Linda, may we please have a roll call?
Motion was made by Counselor Goodman Henschitz, seconded by Counselor Ventura, to enact Bill number 18-2022, which amends the vehicle section of the city code by exempting vehicles parked in violation of parking against the flow of traffic during winter weather conditions. Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Ms. Cepeda Freitas,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Henschitz,
Yes.
Ms. Reed, Ms. Ventura,
Yes.
Mr. Walton, President.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
Thank you. The next one is Bill 25-2022, amending the City Code, Administrative Code Section 5-215, Council Districts, as recommended by the Redistricting Advisory Commission. This was introduced at the March 14th regular meeting. We had a public hearing held on March 21st. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Open for discussion? Yes, Donna.
Just want to commend the members of that particular advisory commission. This is a group that's only convened every 10 years. I really, just kudos to everyone on it. They had a lot of really interesting, involved conversations. They did their best to try to not disrupt councilmanic districts in any other way than trying to make them as equally representative population-wise as possible. I believe ultimately it was only one precinct in District 6 that moved to District 1. And that's pretty astonishing. And again, it was done purely by the numbers, which is what needs to be done. And I think the state redistricting and those looking at federal redistricting for House of Representative seats could take a lot of notes and a lot of examples from this group that did it without histrionics, that did it without partisanship, that did it simply by the numbers and by the requisites. So I'm very pleased with what they did, and I'm really glad about the conversations that were had, and especially to thank Mike Golembeski of County Planning, who is really the data guru for this county. He knows census figures. I think he must have memorized, Linda, right? And it seems that he does. Linda, you did a lot of work on this. Thank you. But, Michael is par excellence when it comes to county data.
Absolutely.
And he has been a guiding force through at least, this is the third one now, I believe, that he's helped us with of the redistricting commissions. So anyhow, we thank Michael very much and everyone who served on this. This is truly public service in the best sense of the word.
Anyone else? I completely agree with Donna. I think the process was very well explained. It was clear and it was fair above all things. So thank you to the group. So let's have a roll call then in that case. Linda, please.
Motion was made by Counselor Reed, seconded by Counselor Ventura, to enact Bill number 25, 2022, which amends the City Code Section 5 to 15, council districts as recommended by the Redistricting Advisory Commission. Mr. Peter Freitas?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Henschitz?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Ventura?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Walton, President.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
Next bill is 26-2022, amending the 2022 Human Relations Budget by adding $250,000 of ARPA allocation for rental and utility assistance. This was introduced at the March 14th regular meeting. May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion. Marcia?
And I just feel that this is a very positive move considering the challenges people might face with both rental and also utilities. And I understand why it's being used with the ARPA money just because of the flexibility, but I think it's going to be an ongoing issue that we're going to have to be aware of as we develop other budgets and look at other funding streams.
Thank you. Anyone else? May we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Motion was made by Counselor Goodman Henschitz, seconded by Counselor Reed, to enact Bill number 26, 2022, which amends the Human Relations budget by adding 250,000 in ARPA funding. Ms. Goodman Henschitz?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Ventura?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Peter Freitas?
Yes.
Mr. Walton, President.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
Okay. Next one is Bill 27-2022, amending City Code Section 576-502, parking zones established, traffic control to remove metered parking on the 100, 200, and 300 blocks of North 9th Street. This was introduced at the March 14th regular meeting. May I please have a roll, may I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved. Floor is open for discussion. Anyone? No comments? Yes.
Just a quick comment. I think Frank has explained, this is a situation where it was, the effort was tried, it was measured, it was deemed really not appropriate, and the meters have been subsequently removed. So the effort was made, but it was one of those trial processes that sometimes you need to go through. Just like we're gonna look at line parking
Right.
in a pilot. It's kind of similar for this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Linda.
Motion was made by Counselor Reed, seconded by Counselor Ventura, to enact Bill number 27, 2022, which amends the City Code 576-502 by removing metered parking in the 100, 200, and 300 blocks of North 9th Street. Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Ventura?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Peter Freitas?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Henschitz?
Yes.
Mr. Walton, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, 6 yeas, no nays.
That concludes our ordinances for final passage. We will move on to introduction of new ordinances. Councilman Butler, could you please read the introduction of new ordinances?
Yes, I can. Ordinance A, amending the 2022 Fund 43 City Facilities Construction Fund budget is providing 400,000, not an additional, 400,000 for the sidewalk replacement program. The funds will be paid by a budget amendment in the city's facilities construction fund budget. To ordinance B, authorizing the mayor to accept land donated by the Honorable Arthur E. and Louis C. Grimm at 2049 Hassan Boulevard in the city of Reading and conveying a city-owned undeveloped parcel on New Holland Road to Berks Nature. And the last one, ordinance C, amending by eliminating City Code Chapter 23, Part 2, Penn Square Commission, Chapter 396 Parks, Part 2, Penn Square, and the permitting process, which is inconsistent with Chapter 576 and reserving Part 2 for future use. And that is all. Oh, I got the resolutions or no?
Further discuss these at our next committee of the whole meetings. We're going to move on to resolutions, and I will take the liberty of combining Resolution A and Resolution B, if that's okay with council body. A is appointing Susan Williams to the Charter Board, and B is reappointing Richard Wagner to the Human Relations Commission. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. It's been properly moved. The floor is open for discussion. Any comments? Yes, Marcia.
Okay, well, first, with Susan Williams, she's probably one of the premier experts on the charter, so it was really great to have her back on the charter board. I think she brings a wealth of experience. And I have to say the same thing for Richard, too. I think he really, his compassion and what he wants to bring to the Human Relations Commission. And we're so fortunate to have those individuals be willing to volunteer their time to these two bodies.
Anyone else? I'll say a few things. I mean, I always have the honor and the pleasure of being part of this commission where we get to, or committee rather, where we get to interview candidates for these appointments. And I appreciate that both Susan and Richard, have caring hearts. They're volunteering their time, they're committed to being part of the process and to have some type of impact in our community. So I agree with Marcia, and I'd like to see them be moved forward. Linda, may we please have a roll call?
Motion was made by Counselor Goodman Hintershitz, seconded by Counselor Ventura, to adopt Resolution 66 and 67, 2022, which make appointments to the boards and reappointments to the boards and commissions, appointments and reappointments. Ms. Ventura,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Peter Freitas,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Hintershitz.
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
The next resolution is confirming the appointment of Christopher Geltz as Chief Building Official for the City of Reading. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments at this time? No? Okay, roll call, please.
Motion was made by Counselor Reed, seconded by Counselor Goodman Hintershitz, to adopt Resolution 68, 2022, which confirms the appointment of Christopher Geltz as the city's chief building official for the city. Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Peter Freitas.
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Hintershitz.
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Ventura,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
The next resolution is authorizing a temporary parking regulation pilot program for the installation of parking stalls at prescribed locations within the city and parking requirements related thereto for a 90-day period pursuant to Chapter 576 Vehicles, Section 105 Experimental Regulations effective July 1st, 2022. May I have a motion?
Move to table.
Second.
It's been properly moved and tabled. We will not have any discussion at this time. And now we're opening the floors for some public oh, we have to vote, sorry. Roll call, please.
Motion was made by Counselor Goodman Hintershitz, seconded by Counselor Ventura, to table Resolution 69, 2022. Mr. Peter Freitas.
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Hintershitz.
Yes.
Ms. Reed.
Yes.
Ms. Ventura.
Yes.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
Trying to move the meeting along, so I apologize for skipping that part of the process. Okay, so now we're opening the floor for some public comments. Anyone on council have a few words to say? I'm sorry? Council comments at this time. Who would like to begin? Oh, Marcia.
Yeah, I just feel very compelled because of the ongoing chronicity of the violence that's occurring, not only in our city, but really across the state, in a lot of the major cities. I really feel that we need to have, moving forward, rather than just talking about how much money we need to put towards it, to have a plan, a comprehensive plan that really looks at all strategies. And I know we've had public dialogue, and that's really good, but it goes beyond the dialogue. It comes up with getting stakeholders together. This was done very successfully many years ago, both with Mayor McMahon's administration and then following through with the Reading Youth Violence Prevention Initiative, where there are evidence-based proven programs. Because of that, there were successes. Reading School District instituted a proven program at all its middle school grade levels for a period of time. There were other evidence-based programs. There were communities coming together to have forums. We just had a lot of different initiatives. And what I feel is happening now is and I'm going to paraphrase something that was said in some previous planning, we're almost ready, fire, and then aim. We need to aim first to figure out what we want to do, how we do it strategically. And I want to just put out that I will not support anything that doesn't based on strategic planning with good, solid evidence that it's going to be effective. So that I know it's good to be able to allocate money, but you need to know how to do it. And I think we need to follow the model that was adopted by the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, where they developed a statewide plan for violence prevention and intervention, and then they fund according to that plan. So everything has to be linked together. So I'm hoping the city can look at that model, look at some of the best practices in other cities, and bring that to the city of Reading. I appreciate the mayor and my fellow councilors who have gone out to sites and been able to work together with the community members, and certainly they need that. I appreciate the work that you've done, Councilwoman Cepeda Freitas, by going to the vigil last night. We need to be able to look at that energy and move forward. So I hope to be able to have a dialogue with this body and our leadership be able to say, how are we going to make this happen? Thank you.
Anyone else? Donna?
I was going to write a little speech and some prepared comments, but instead I just made some notes, and I'm going to try to tie these together. In District 5, within the last 6 weeks, we've had 5 murders. 5 murders. Each has had a different point of reference, not that there's anything good about a murder and a point of reference. The last one was really as heinous as they all are. This last one was incredibly heinous. If it had occurred a couple of hours earlier, our kids would have been getting out of Glenside Elementary and walking by. It was only by the grace of whatever that it happened when the kids were home. The aunt of the victim had reached out via messenger, and we interacted a little bit. And, you know, it's really hard to say anything because you can't imagine what the family is going through if you've been fortunate enough not to have gone through it. Council President happened to be at my home visiting my husband and I that evening when this occurred. We walked up, we talked to folks. People were stranded on either side of Schuylkill Avenue to get from one way to the other because the road had been closed for 5 hours. It was part of the investigation. And I helped guide a resident of the homes back via Montgomery Street, a very little used street in our neighborhood, but it runs along the creek, and she was able to get back with a guiding way of getting through there to her son, who was home alone while this was going on. I spoke with someone from the district today who noted to me another relative of this young victim of Angel Hernandez Lopez, only 19 years old, another young relative whose father is incarcerated, whose single mother works 1, if not 2 jobs to keep the family going. So we have a 12-year-old boy who's often home alone. And that's the recipe for something like this, to really create the issues that we're seeing. Home alone, you're 12 years old, you need attention. You need someone to mentor you. Maybe no one has told him or her about all of it. Maybe no one has told this young person where they can go to have friends and have good relationships and have mentoring. Marcia, I did give the person who I spoke with your name to reach out, that you might be able to connect this young man with something to help him out. You know, it's sad because I doubt that's a story that's unique and singular to this situation and to the relatives of this victim. You know, we can do what we can do. We can do the strategic planning, we can do all this, but you know, if home is where the heart is, home is where everyone should be mentored. You know, we're all sitting around this table, we're lucky. Melissa, you're a great mom to your kids. Maria, Johanny, success of your children. Jeff, grandchildren. Frank, your children growing up. I mean, we are very, very lucky people. Linda, your girls, international even. But we're so lucky. We don't walk in those shoes that our neighbors do, that many of our neighbors do. And however you can, whether you're an aunt or an uncle, a grandparent, a brother, sister, if you know someone's out there, some young person, do what you can do. You know, maybe it's the person next door, it's a person down the street. You see a young person taking a walk every night, and maybe they're by themselves. If you're in a front yard, talk to them. You know, hi, how are you doing? How's school going? What's happening? Those little interactions are so important. You know, I worry about the city. We talked about quality of life. There's only so much government can do, but government, we can step up in many ways. We can enforce quality of life so that we show that we have pride in our city, and that's going to have a trickle-down effect to the kids having pride in their city. Why should, you know, a kid walking down the street feel real good about their city if there's trash around and the grown-ups aren't doing anything about it? If we aren't just saying, oh, well, yep, there's trash, there's litter, how does that make you feel? You know how you feel when you live in a good, clean environment. The pride is tangible as well as emotional to our citizens, to our residents. But as a city, we can do that. We can do more than what we've done. We can, you know, I give credit to the marches and everything, but you know, maybe instead of sitting around a table talking to each other and legislators, maybe we should just take a walk in the blocks and go door to door and talk to, you know, in beautiful weather, talk to people that are outside. How are you? Where are you from? What are you doing? We should also be doing other things. You know, I think we asked half a year ago about following up on deconversion incentives, about home ownership incentives. The transience of this community is lending itself to the kind of issues that we're dealing with. If you don't feel you belong and you want to make a statement, maybe you're making a wrong statement. But we have too many people crowded into too many places, and we've let for years some landlords do terrible things to the city and its housing stock. Case in point, the rooming house in the 800 block of Center Avenue that went on for years and years and years through different administrations. Thank you, Frank. This man over here is the one that finally brought that and caused an end to it. So thank you, Frank. You just improved the quality of life for a whole lot of people on 3rd Street, on Center Avenue, on Douglas Street, on Windsor Street. But how many of those are going on that we haven't stepped up? Whether we've had benevolent or malevolent mayors and administrations, things continue on and on and on. And we as a council can only use our fiduciary powers to make things happen, truly. We, you know, Jeff, you've called it a strong mayor form of government. The power of our money allocations are what we have here as council. And it should be more than that. It It should be more partnerships, but we need to see action on codes. We need to see action on many things. And we need to have the heart, I believe, as a council to say, we will do what it takes to increase the number of police officers on this force. Because while we need all the help we can from an education standpoint and everything else, people need to feel safe, no matter what their age is, no matter where they live. And we owe it to our citizens and to our police officers who do such a good job that there's more backup and they have more people. They can't be in a car when someone pulls a trigger and kills someone in a car. They can't be in the house when it happens, but they're visible. The amount of visibility on the street is helpful. There's no question about that. And I think we need to be more communicative regarding the aftermath of these murders. We understand that we can't release all the information, but in a neighborhood like Jeff and I were in the other night, and we've all had those circumstances, you know, do people need to feel afraid? Should they be on guard? Should they be in their houses and not on the street and be aware of what's going on? Or can they breathe a little sigh of relief that perhaps this is not a danger to the community at whole, that there has been some action taken that precludes them from being worried about walking on the sidewalk, walking out their front door. It's not so much that the reporters need to know, it's that we have a public trust to express within, not impeding an investigation, not hurting an investigation, but to do what's right for our citizens. So I hope that we can be more communicative in a quicker way than what we have been, especially in these kind of circumstances that are so visible and so much a part of a major street and major thoroughfare for both pedestrians and cars. Finally, I do want to, this is a little separate, but not so much really when you think about it. We have lost in District 5 a man who many of us may have not known his name, but we knew his face and we knew his smile. Dwight Davis, known more as Rick, was the crossing guard at Schuylkill and Douglas Street for almost 20 years. He worked, March 23rd was his last day of work. It was the day he passed. Every single day, and it gives me the chills to think about what a wonderful person he was. Every single day you would go past where he was, whether it was morning or afternoon when the kids were going to school or being let out. Every single time you passed him, a huge smile, he leaned in to wave to you, to acknowledge you. The kids, he talked to the kids every day, the seniors, the people going to the bodega. He was one of those people, and you can never be able to quantify it, but just think what the standard of that man being there with his smile, with his kindness every single day. You can't quantify it, but maybe there's a kid who went the right way because he was there and he was someone you could count on seeing every day. There's people like that all over the city, but this man was extraordinary. He's survived by his 2 sons, his 4 grandchildren, his 6 grandchildren, his brother. But for those of us who saw that smile every day, if you were having a good day, it made it better. If you're having a bad day, it made it better. He just was kind to everyone. So I would say to all of us, when you know people like that, when you see those faces smiling every day, know that they're helping us. Like Mr. Rogers always said in the neighborhood, they're the helpers. And, you know, if there's a heaven, this man should be up there helping St. Peter at the pearly gates, because just the kindness you see in folks like this, the community leaders who we may not know their names, that we may not see them posting every other minute on Facebook and patting themselves on the back, but they have done so much good in our community. So with all the sadness we've had in District 5, this to me is one of the saddest things, is to lose this gentleman who, to the last day of his life, was there smiling, helping kids, helping his neighbors. And I hope that, you know, any of you who knew Mr. Davis, that you'll remember his family, and just remember that this gentleman, you know, at 76, an Army veteran, someone who lost his dear wife several years earlier, was still there every day to make the world a better place. And I think Reading is full of good people. We just have to find them, be them, and show the world that we're there for each other, and especially our young kids. So I went on a bit long, but These are just difficult times. These are extraordinary days, but we can, one by one by one, I believe, make a difference. And I think that's what we have to do.
Thank you so much, Donna, for sharing. Anyone else would like to comment before we conclude this evening? I have a few things to say unless Council President, would you like to say something now? Or you'll conclude?
No, I just, the comment on the violence, there's probably about 90 things we need to do better. There's no one solution. The most important is the educational element of these young people. We live in a human world where everything's driven by more and more and more and competition. And I think not only 18-year-olds on the streets, but even successful 45-year-olds often forget that life isn't about more or proving that you're right or you're wrong. It's about just enjoying the day that you're in. And we've made this world so complicated with the internet and everything else that, especially the youth, they're up against more than we could have ever imagined in our youth with the thrust of information and live social media, the abundance of guns and things like that. So, I encourage all the efforts that are being made, but I really believe it really starts at education at the very young age and also continuing through high school of keeping life in perspective. I don't think when somebody shoots another 18-year-old that they really understand what they're doing, not only to that person, but to themselves and to the families. And a lot of that is because their minds are too caught up with so much other noise. And the reasoning is that the world is constantly pumping noise. There's just so much information that gets in front of people every day that we lose sight of the simplicity of life. And I think that's the message that we have to figure out how to convey by people. You can have all the police you want in the world, and I agree, you have to polish the city up to look more like home, so it feels like home and you have more respect for it. But if you don't control the information going into people's minds, because the mind will disconnect you from the spirit. I mean, most people live in their heads, and if you're up there thinking all the time and worrying and competing, you're not really connected to what's important. You're just living up in a bunch of noise. So as we proceed with more and more efforts, I agree with the chief. A police portal, I think, would be very helpful as a way of encouraging the community to speak up. I think codes is important. I think it's important to get these motorbikes off the street. I think it's very important to deal with loud music and grills on the sidewalks and just overall behavior, so people understand that this is a city where we respect each other and cleanliness is important and respect is important. That's a start, but we also have to educate children along the way that less is more sometimes, especially what's going on in your mind, so that if you learn to keep peace within yourself, you're not too busy trying to prove something to somebody else. And there's just too much of that going on, whether it's in gangs or in individuals. And I don't know all the circumstances of all the recent shootings, but across the country, it's a phenomenon. Since 2019, the murder rate has just gone crazy. And even though violent crime hasn't necessarily gone crazy, meaning other crimes, but murder has. And I attribute it to noise. There's just so much noise and so much kids get pulled by. And kids are, I think, also just kind of disenfranchised, believing if they don't accomplish this, then they're that. And that's the wrong message. Sometimes that America says, because it is a capitalistic society, and unless you go to Texas A&M and you own 6 businesses by the time you're 40, you've failed, and you haven't. I always tell people, we're all great and we're all average, and nobody's better than or less than anyone else. And we need to teach that to our children so they're not trying to compete so much. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Council President, and I will echo some of these sentiments, but more importantly, there's a call to action to every member of our community, because each and every one of you can do something. Like Donna mentioned, a smile, a hello, how are you? Get to know your neighbor. For every community-based organization throughout the city, come out of your establishments, assess and evaluate your immediate areas and figure out what the needs are. And then maybe collectively we can figure out how to find the solutions. For every church throughout the community, because we have several, come out of your building, right? Do the same, assess, evaluate. Maybe start praying throughout the cities over people and so on. I mean, I'm not trying to tell people how to do their jobs, but I think it's important for us to come out of our spaces, out of our walls, and really get to know our community. Because I think then simultaneously throughout the city, we can start to identify problems, but more importantly, find solutions. Because sometimes solutions are incredibly simple, but we tend to overcomplicate matters. On that note, if you see something, say something, and how you do so, download the iRequest app. You can report things anonymously. Again, you see something, you can say something, you can upload a picture on iRequest. I just wanted to make an announcement that also, and also I want to congratulate the young lady that was here, Jamila, because oftentimes, obviously we spend time on crime, right? Because it's an issue, it's an ongoing issue, but we need to continue to celebrate and highlight our young people who are excelling, because there are more of them excelling than not. So, and I think that's how we start also changing, and these young people are modeling the behavior that others should be following. So congratulations to her, and I'm sure there's many others, and we're gonna find all those hidden treasures and keep exposing them here in council. On that note, on Friday is First Friday. So we're having a party on 4th and Penn Street, right? First Friday. So for all of you who say there's nothing to do in Reading, there's always something to do in our beautiful city. So 4th and Penn Street will be First Friday commencing April 1st. So I hope to see you all there. I believe Barrio Alegría is also having a fashion show at Oak Brook on Saturday at the Olivets from 1 to 3. Again, we have amazing organizations in our community that they're doing positive things. Let's stay connected and let's keep spreading the word. Yes, Marcia.
And I can't believe I would be remiss to say Jazz Fest starts on
That's right.
Friday, noontime at the Peanut Bar. Okay, goes for another week. Let's all be good ambassadors. There's a lot of people
That's
that are
right.
going to be coming back and visiting us in Reading. Let's do whatever we can do to be able to welcome them to our fine city, because they love Reading. They come back year after year. They've missed us for a couple of years. So I'll probably be finding myself up at the Santander Performing Arts Center with the jazz piece of it. And, just visiting as many venues as possible. So I hope to see you all here some way, shape, or form. I'm hoping to see the mayor. He has a dignitary role on the first night of Jazz Fest, so I'm hoping that happens. So we'll just see.
Thank you. So on that, I should announce upcoming meetings. Monday, April 4th, Nominations and Appointment Committee will meet at 4, followed by Committee of the Whole at 5. The following Monday, April 11th, Committee of the Whole at 5, followed by regular meeting. Monday, April 18th, Nominations and Appointments at 4, Committee of the Whole at 5. Stay tuned. Check out the Reading City website for more information. On that note, can I please have a motion to adjourn? That's right. Stay tuned. Special meeting on Wednesday. We will be interviewing for the vacancy in District 1. So everyone, it's a public meeting. You can all attend, you can watch. Thank you for that, Linda. And can I get a motion?
So moved.
Great. Have a good evening, everyone. Enjoy your week. Thank you for being present and be safe.
All right, thank you, honey. Good job.
Thank you. All right, Jahan.
Any note about, generally we can find it
No, I have not directed or anything.
Yeah, Linda, I didn't sign
I know
those.
the mayor is supposed to, was asking for it this morning for Marks.
Do you need this back?
It's some kind of event. Let me see if it's on his calendar.
Because generally we always get live.
How's that work? You get invited directly to council.
Yeah, or to each person.
Okay. Okay.
Bye, guys.